Well, joining me in studio this afternoon to unpack this further is Africa expert Mr. Edward Mitole, and I'm still joined by political analyst K.F. Malindi Jr. Mr. Malindi, thank you for staying with us. Mr. Mitole, welcome. Thank you for joining us here on ANN7.
Thank you, ma'am.
I want to start off by getting your view and opinion, reaction to what is unfolding in Zimbabwe.
Thank you, ma'am. Good day, our viewers. The situation in Zimbabwe is a worrisome development. You must remember that this is not the first time that we experience regime change in Africa. Zimbabwe has always been a nightmare. It has always been a headache to the international governance system, to those people who control and rule the world. Zimbabwe is not, this is not coming as a surprise, because we knew all along that after Botswana, we know Botswana is in their hands. The next thing was Zimbabwe, because Zimbabwe is one of the lingering, if we have a wound, we would describe it as a festering wound that has been giving them a lot of sleepless nights. Now it has been coming. We knew it was going to come. And even if the military didn't intervene, it would have come by other means. But this was going to happen. So we shouldn't be surprised. The next thing is we'll be seeing British and US mining companies returning to Zimbabwe. Next thing, we'll be seeing US and British oil companies. And next thing, we'll be seeing the control, because the whole contestation is about the flow of money, the flow of the petrodollar. Zimbabwe was like an obstacle in the total recapture of Africa. So this was going to happen.
Mr. Malindi, do you agree? Was this a ticking time bomb? Do you share Mr. Mitole's sentiments?
No, I disagree completely.
Okay.
First of all, you cannot talk of Zimbabwe being a part of the international governance system when we barely have a currency. The petrol dollar he's speaking of, there are barely any US dollars on the ground, and we've resorted to using the bond again. I mean, the shortages in Zimbabwe are ridiculous. I think the whole premise of Edwards, with all due respect, Edward, but the whole premise of your where you're coming from, I'm actually a bit flustered, because at the end of the day, you are speaking of the West. He spoke of the US and the UK coming in. This is an internal situation that is going on within ZANU-PF. So if you're saying ZANU-PF is being captured by the West internally, then that is very much not in line with the principles that the generals are speaking of, because the generals clearly said that they are safeguarding the rewards of the revolution.
Mr. Mitole, would you like to respond?
I beg to differ. I beg to differ.
Sure.
Because the statement from the army says that they have detained the finance minister. They have neutralized the cabinet of President Mugabe. What would that amount to? Because the definition, the meaning of the word coup is when you neutralize the executive. That is tantamount to a coup.
Yes, it is a coup, but a coup removing people who are looting the country. So, I mean, so would you rather that a country be captured by a few individuals as opposed to having the will and the wants of the nation being propagated? Who is to benefit the most from this coup is the people of Zimbabwe. The people of Zimbabwe have spoken. If we could get them all on ANN7, I would love. But I mean, social media, besides social media, because social media has become this enigma that people don't like to, base facts off of. But if you look at the reaction of the people in Zimbabwe on the ground, people are happy. People, like I said before, when we were speaking, Abigail, a friend of mine actually messaged me this morning and said, "Happy Independence Day." Robert Mugabe was a symbol of totalitarianism. And that symbol has been removed. And the people, that is exactly what the people of Zimbabwe have wanted. And for you to then go on further and say that we saw this coming, that is not true at all. People on the ground in Zimbabwe did not see this coming.
Okay.
Which is why preparations within the last month have been exceeded to get people to register to vote. A number of individuals who've been running as individuals, as independents, a number of political parties have been pushing for the youth to register to vote. Why? Because our assumption, what people thought was going to transpire was that the only way we're going to be able to remove this regime would be through elections in 2018. And that has been the focus of the people of Zimbabwe for the past year. So for you to then say that we expected this to happen, I think that would definitely be a fallacy. But now that it has happened, people are happy because it's happened even before the 2018 election. My fear, though, is that now that the symbol of all this totalitarianism within ZANU-PF has been removed, which is Robert Mugabe, it might give good face to ZANU-PF, and it might take away from the rhetoric of the opposition, and people might then say, well, okay, they've started to change, let's give them another chance. That's assumption and speculation. But I mean, from a political view, I do think that Chiwenga and his allies are in good standing with a number of people, with a number of the Zimbabweans in the country right now because of this development of being able to remove a symbol of our state capture for the past 37 years.
Mr. Mitole, let's just shift gears briefly. Speaking about the military, they did mention that President Robert Mugabe is safe. His safety is guaranteed. They said that in their statement on live television this morning. But do you think that if challenged, President Robert Mugabe would survive that challenge? I mean, there's speculation of him possibly stepping down in the coming days. What is your reaction to those sort of allegations and speculation?
Thank you. I was still digesting the contributions from my learned friend.
Sure, you are welcome to respond as well.
But I'm baffled because I don't seem to understand that in 2017, enlightened Africans are still failing to figure out imperialism. In 2017, we have black people educated up to master's degrees, but they are still failing to figure out neocolonialism. Kwame Nkrumah warned us many years ago that neocolonialism is the last stage of imperialism. And in his book, which earned him a lot of distaste from the US. Actually, when that book was released on the market, the US State Department canceled $25 million worth of aid to Ghana immediately.
Edward, imperialism is when the president's son wears a $60,000 watch and pours $300 champagne on that watch.
That's not imperialism.
Then what would you call that?
Let me break it down
when
for
we
you.
can't pay our own civil servants. What would you call that?
Let me break it down for you. Zimbabwe was a no-go zone for white monopoly capital. Zimbabwe was the only buffer country in Africa where the vultures could not access.
And then they become the vultures.
This has been planned. Do you know where the Zimbabwean ambassador to South Africa is at the moment? He was recalled. He's back in Zimbabwe. Do you know where the finance minister is? He's detained. Do you know where Ignatius Shombo is?
Yeah,
you must understand.
He has been looting the country.
There can never be a coup within
Okay, gentlemen,
I think
let's move on to another topic. Maybe the two of you can take this debate off set. But just reports coming through now with regards to President Robert Mugabe possibly addressing the nation in the next couple of hours. What do you think the chances are of the army actually allowing him to do that at this stage?
Once again, it's speculation.
Yeah.
But they have been very clear that their qualm is not with the president, but with those people that are around the president who have been looting the nation. I am surprised that they would state that and not allow him to address the nation. So I think it is very pertinent, especially in the next 48 hours, for them to actually allow Robert Mugabe to address the nation. Also to then be able to stand by the fact that it's not a coup.
Mr. Mitole, is it not concerning that we haven't heard from the president as yet with regards to everything that's developed since this morning?
Exactly. What are we trying to say? Are we children? We are not children. What are they trying to say? It's not a coup? When they neutralized the president, the head of state, they neutralized the finance minister, they neutralized his intelligence, the intelligence. They neutralized all his cabinet members. Is that not a coup? We are not children.
Not
this
all
has
his cabinet
happened
members.
in South Africa. The thing is, the international, the corporations that rule the world, when they plan coup, the modern type of coup is not that coup we had where we see blood in the streets. The coup of the modern day is a coup where they just move in to neutralize the centers of power. And the centers of power in Zimbabwe was the executive, the military, the military intelligence. These have been neutralized as we speak. So is that not a coup? They are saying now they will allow the president to speak. Where's the script coming from? From the military. We must understand that our military in Africa is captured. Can you show me a military that is not controlled and that does not receive instructions from the US Army? Give me one military in Africa that does not receive instructions from the US Army.
Well, these are unanswered questions. Mr. Mitole, thank you very much for your time. Gentlemen, we have to wrap it up there. Thank you very much for engaging with us this afternoon on 8 on this topic. We appreciate you talking to us, the both of you. That was our Africa expert, Mr. Edward Mitole, as well as political analyst KF Malinde Jr. joining us in studio just to unpack the current situation in Zimbabwe. Reports coming through, as mentioned earlier, that President Robert Mugabe is going to engage with the media and send out a statement of sorts. Speculation at this point, but stay tuned to 8 We are going to keep you up to date. It's time for a quick break.